As a wedding photographer, we have so many challenges that come up in front of us on a wedding day, and today I wanted to talk about the challenges that come up specifically when it comes to photographing the flat lays. If you're a wedding photographer too, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I make new YouTube videos every single week for wedding photographers on this channel. Number one challenge is always time. It's so easy as us as photographers to envision flat lays, pick out the background, receive that photo of the invitation from the couple, and plan all these things in our head. But you and I know when we get to that wedding, anything could happen, and I feel like the number one challenge is always time, and this really goes into play in all areas of the wedding. You could have an entire set of bride and groom poses, and then when you get to the wedding, you only have actually 5 minutes. What I like to do to combat this time is to build 1 hour into my timeline to get all of the stuff for the flat lays done, and I feel like the part that takes the longest sometimes is actually putting things back. So I have an assistant that helps me take behind the scenes content, not my second shooter, it's an additional person. And this person is in charge of putting the things back in the box or back in the flat, like back to go back to the bride, because it does take like 10 minutes to do that. And that it does eat up a lot of time and just like mental energy in the start of a wedding. And the other thing I like to do is, even though I have an hour built in for the flat lays, I like to show up 1 hour early. So if that's you, make sure you give yourself enough time and you're not rushed. And if I'm done by my actual start time, that's great. I found that it's been easier to manage my own stress as a wedding photographer by dedicating a little bit more of my time the day of. So for me, if I'm working an 8-hour wedding, 9 hours really doesn't feel that different to me. So I do like to dedicate a little bit more of that time for myself to gather my thoughts in the beginning of the day. And it really helps me just get accustomed to the space also. And I work from a more intentional, more calm place when I have a little bit more time to think things through. Challenge number 2 is lighting. So I have whole videos here on this YouTube channel about video lights, window light, where you're going, and then as a wedding photographer, when you get there on the wedding day, you're gonna have like that little small tiny window in the corner. So ideally you want natural light, you need to be next to a window, and the thing about weddings is so does the makeup artist, and a lot of people just end up needing those spaces near windows. So ideally find a window. My thing with flat lays and shooting them in the same room, if you're like in a hotel with the bride, is I really don't like to shoot them really close to the bride where she can see everything I'm doing over my shoulder. It makes me nervous and it just feels really intrusive of her day. So I like to take things away from her, out of the room, if there's no window that's like far enough away from her where she can just kind of be without watching what's going on. So you need a window, and the makeup artist usually also needs a window, and it always just feels like everyone needs windows or is near the window. So ideally, if you can find a window in a spot where you can spread out because you need some space. So the solution, if there isn't any window light, is, like I said, if you're in a hotel, just take the stuff outside the room, or if you're at any wedding venue and there's literally no window light in the building, shoot the flat lays outside. So I just take everything somewhere where there is good lighting. And you can watch my other videos if you have no light, no choice, it's dark. I do have a video light that I sometimes use with a softbox. Number 3 of all the challenges we have as wedding photographers is actually that you don't have all of the stuff that you need from the couple for the flat lay. So this happens often. Couples don't always read emails, planners don't always read emails, people aren't always aware that you're doing a flat lay even though you sent it in the email. They're not aware of what you need even though you made a checklist of everything that they need to bring. Sometimes couples just don't bring it. They just don't bring their invitation to their wedding. They just don't think about it. So this happens pretty often. And I feel like this is one area of our work where our visions for things and sometimes the reality of what's happening kind of clash. So when this happens, when you've had all these ideas for your amazing flat lay for your wedding, and then you get there and the stuff isn't there, she doesn't have anything for you except the shoes and maybe a pair of earrings, I like to pull back and just remind myself that I am here to photograph what's here. If it's not here, it's not something to stress about. It's not my job to make things happen. Really, when the wedding day actually comes, we can only do what is in front of us. So it can be disappointing and stressful when you have all these ideas for your couple to bring to life, and they didn't meet you halfway by bringing you the things, and you already did your part by telling them what you need. And I still do a flat lay no matter what. So what I mean by that is even if there's only a pair of shoes, there's no invitation suite, the bride's not wearing jewelry, anything, even if it's just one pair of shoes, I still roll out my styling mat and photograph it as if there was everything and do multiple angles as if there was everything. So I don't change the process of shooting flat lays just because there is a lack of quantity of things. The only time where I don't use my styling mat is actually for an elopement. So that's because styling mats really do stage things in a beautiful way, but for elopements, it doesn't really make sense for me and my work and my business to stage a full flat lay for an elopement when they probably didn't do invitations, or it's just a smaller event, and the whole style of the elopement is that it happened naturally, candidly. And so for elopements, I just use the floor of what the venue looks like, or I prop things up on a chair, just kind of how they're naturally laying there. That also might happen is you might have all the stuff, but you don't have florals. So because the florist didn't have any extra, or didn't see your email, or just isn't coming that early in the day, which happens all the time. So one thing I like to do is email the florist before the wedding day, saying this is the time I'm going to be arriving to do flat lays. If you would like to feature some of your flowers in them, this would be the time I would need them. No pressure, it's a really nice email. You don't have to do that. And I can put that email in the comments also if that would help you guys, just copy paste it to send it to florists. So just go heavy on the styling items where you would put florals. So heavy on the ring boxes. I have a whole video here on YouTube about my styling kit that has stamps, like wax sealers, the actual wax, ribbons, all of this stuff. So if you don't, add in florals, super easy to, kind of like fill that negative space with a bunch of other stuff, and you can get the whole styling kit that I have on Amazon. Base itself, so forget the windows, let's just say the room is like fully beautiful light, windows all around, you have so much light to work with, but the room is like this big, it's a good idea to just take everything out of the room. And usually I like to have a second shooter if that's going to be the case, and I know the room's going to be really small, so that second shooter can kind of pop in, get candids, because the risk that you take when you're leaving the room that morning as a wedding photographer completely is that you might miss a couple moments of them, like candids, the people getting ready. You're just like really far away from the scene. So it's helpful to have a second shooter bouncing in and out with other vendors, aka wedding planners. So one thing that I have experienced is that some wedding planners do like to be really involved with the flat lay to the point that they like to completely style it themselves, and other wedding planners really just don't want to be that involved. So what I like to do is email the wedding planner before, even though you guys are probably already emailing, and just say, hey, what is the extent that you would like to be involved with the flat lay? I'm comfortable styling it by myself, but how much input do you like to have with the flat lay? Some of them say, I like to style it. So if that's the case, I bring the backdrop, or I have the backdrop. I ask the planner if I could have control over the backdrop just to make it consistent with the gallery. And what I'll do is I'll get there a little bit earlier, and I will actually set the backdrop up and give the planner my styling kit and everything, and then I will walk away and let her him do what they want to do first, and I'll just do candidates with the brides. Sometimes I feel like it kind of, if you have never met this planner and you guys are kind of like trying to figure out the design together, it could be a little bit like she wants to do something, but you're standing there and she just doesn't feel that comfortable. So I find the most successful is just giving planners kind of that first realm to just do whatever you want to do, and then I'll come in and put my input and we work together from there. And then whenever the planner comes up with, I will photograph, because that's what the planner wants to see. And then if I want to do something else after that, I will take it apart and do another flat lay and another flat lay of what I kind of envisioned too. So that's really the best way to get all parties who want to see certain things in the gallery to actually see what they were envisioning. Another challenge you might have is that they want something in the flat lay that is at the wedding but not with you wherever you are doing the flat lay. So for example, sometimes they don't get the groom's ring from him for the flat lay and it's with him, or the grandma has something really small that they kind of want in the gallery, like a little letter or like a handkerchief or something, and it's just not with you right now. So what I've done before is just photograph that little piece or item later in the day with a background that is as close to the styling board as you can. So for example, sometimes if the ring was missing, I will just take the ring box out and put it on the reception table and just photograph it at the reception. Another thing you can do is just roll your styling mat out at the reception and grab a quick photo with the flash of the ring and then just mix it in there. It's better to have things accounted for than super stressed about whether or not it's completely 100% cohesive, because the reality is that there might be some things at the wedding that aren't in the first hour of the day that were like a mistake. They should have been there, but you still want to get them in the gallery. If you guys want to see me style and photograph a flat lay in real time, sort of, on a YouTube video, make sure you head to my video where I style a flat lay with you, and thank you so much for watching.